So while everyone's joining, I'll just do a bit of an introduction. So today we are joined by Dr. Kagabo Hirwa, and he will be talking to us about his job and how he got into what he's doing now. I won't say too much on that. So now I will hand over to Kagabo. Thank you for joining us this evening.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, and I'm really sorry for the technical glitch despite our previous practice run. Now, do you want me to share? Do you want me to share again the screen? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, as Cindy just presented, my name is Kagabo Hirwa, and I am an specialist registrar, so an ST7 in internal medicine, endocrinology, diabetes, and weight management in the southwest of England. So currently, I'm now working in Torbay Hospital, and of course, an ST7. I will show you along the way what it means.
Cool. And I've just made a poll live just so that everyone can test it out. And if you can let me know where you are, if you're a student or university student. And this is just to show you what our polls will be like as well.
Thank you. So can I carry on? Now, this is going to be my talk layout. So we'll start with my background, then my education and experience, and then somewhat of what we do in my day-to-day job. And then, as I said, in diabetes and endocrinology, then a word on diabetes and weight management. Then I will conclude. If then the audience have questions, I'll be happy to answer them if they are not challenging. All right. Cindy, I can still see the audience panel on. Okay, thanks. So, of course, background, we start with where I come from. So I'm from Africa. And if you narrow it, I am from it's the border between Eastern and Central Africa. So I'm a small country called Rwanda. And that's where I came from. Where is it? Red Arrow. So I'm in the South province of my country. That's where I was born. And that's where I did most of my education. And now, of course, as I said, Rwanda, I'm sure for people who follow football in the audience, I'm sure you've seen this logo somewhere. So now, as you know, I mean, sorry for if there are people not interested in football, but now the current the team on top of the table in the Premiership, it's Arsenal, and they visited Rwanda on their arm sleeve. So that's my country, and also Paris Saint-Germain that has been kicked out last night from out of the Champions League. So that's where I come from. I hope we are now on the map, although we may be small on the previous map I just showed you. Now, as you all know, I mean, now I've just said Rwanda. If you may go back and Google Rwanda, and if you Google Rwanda, it may take you back on 1994. That's what we are known for. But I was going to say, I just selected this picture. Do you know anything else that happened in 1994? There was a World Cup, a football World Cup in the USA. And I'm sure you know this man. It was at the election of Nelson Mandela as the first post-apartheid president. But of course, if you Google Rwanda, you may see that that's things that may come. So in 1994, when the World Cup was happening in the States and Mandela was being elected, we had a genocide, which was played an infamous pivotal role in my history. And of course, also like someone from Rwanda, also it had an effect on me. And yes, I lost a significant part of my family. And then that's me. And then talking of the education, this is the education in Rwanda. I started my primary school at 5 years old, and then I did 6 years of primary school. Then I did 7 years in the orange of what we call secondary school or higher education, and then I went to university where I did medical education. And so it was 6 years of primary school, 7 years of secondary education, and then university was another 6 years. So I just want to show you that there's a bit different of how you do education here. So this is what I did in my high school. It's divided, or secondary school, it's divided into two parts. So you have O level, which is for the first 3 or 4 years, and then you have A level, which is the last 3 years. So these are the topics I had to sit for the final national exam. So I was doing science, and of course I was doing biology, chemistry, physics, mathematics. But on top of that, I also had to do language, French, which was our main language that we were taught in, and my mother tongue Kinyarwanda, and English as a course. But other biology, chemistry, physics, and mathematics were all taught in French. And also, I was in a Catholic secondary school, so I also had to do Latin. Then after that, I went to our National University of Rwanda. It used to be National University of Rwanda, but now it is the University of Rwanda, where I did 6 years of medicine. So the first 2 years, they are called preclinical or pre-medical studies. And then 4 years, they are clinical training, where then you go to the hospital, including 1 year of internship. And then at the end of 6 years, we used to do a research and present a thesis. So this is me when I was submitting and defending my final year thesis in Rwanda. Now, that is my education until I became a doctor. But then in medicine or in modern life, it's always education. So I carry on with experience training, and I'm still in training. So my education has not yet ended. Now, what's about medicine? So my experience after presenting that, my final research, I worked 2 years in my home country, Rwanda, and then I was working in a capital city in Kigali. And then after 2 years, I moved to Middle East, and I worked in the United Arab Emirates. I worked in initial private hospital, and then I moved in a government hospital where I spent 5 years. While I was there, I was doing I was training. This was more personal training, where I did some of the exams that can allow me to practice in the UK. And when I successfully passed those exams, and I was licensed to work by the General Medical Council, and I was licensed or allowed to work in the UK. So I moved to UK, worked in Essex, Southend University Hospital, and I worked there 1 year and a half, and then I joined training in the Southwest. And now I've been in Royal Devon and Exeter Hospital, in the University Hospital Plymouth, and now I'm currently in Torbe Hospital. This is me when I was working in Fujairah in Middle East. Now, here just on a map to show you my journey so far. So I moved from Rwanda to UAE, the Gulf. And then from the UAE, I moved all the way here in England or United Kingdom. Now, because of my previous experience, I was allowed to skip some of the training required here, but I now joined as an ST3 in my training, and I did ST3, ST4, and now I'm there almost at the end. So I'm about to finish to become a consultant. Then I will continue practicing in the medicine, diabetes, and endocrinology. This is me, 2021, in the height of COVID, when I was working in Plymouth. You can see I was wearing the mask. At that time, masks were mandatory everywhere. Now, there are many specialties in medicine. This is a list of some of the specialties we can choose from after doing medicine. But of course, mine is there, endocrinology and diabetes. But there are people who are doing sport and exercise medicine, tropical medicine. Now, you may wonder why endocrinology, diabetes, and what do we do? So I've selected a few questions before I move on. Cindy, would you mind ask them in the chat, or can you name any hormone you know or you've ever heard of? I know my colleague Ash has given a similar talk before. Maybe some of you'll listen to his talk, so you may know some of the hormones.
Hopefully so. So if anyone can name any hormones, can you please put them in the chat box? And we'll give this a couple of minutes to see if you can name any. Estrogen?
Yes, that's good. Yes. Any other hormone?
Insulin?
Yes, that's correct. Yes.
Any more for any more?
Yes, yes, yes. The adrenaline, yes, that yes.
Brilliant.
Yeah, yes, yes, yes.
Here. Melatonin?
Okay, I think.
Yeah, that's some great responses.
I think the audience is already informed, so which makes either my job easier or challenging, because then I have to elevate my level. All right. So, yes. So endocrinology it's a study of hormones, and yes, the estrogen, progesterone, insulin, and insulin it's even a big thing that we have to code diabetes, because the abnormalities that are related to insulin concern many people, a big proportion of the population. Now, this is some of the. So of course this is an image of endocrine systems, and we have hormones that are produced by the hypothalamus, pituitary gland in the brain. And then as you go down, there's hormones at a thyroid level. It's in front of a windpipe. We have, and also other thyroid, parathyroid. We've got adrenal gland, which produces the adrenaline and the noradrenaline. We have also pancreas that produces insulin. And then you have the ovaries that produces estrogen and progesterone. And then you go down, you also have the testicles that produces testosterone. And of course, there are other, even now with more and more advanced research, we discover more and more hormones. Other hormones are produced by even our fat tissue, things like leptin. So with research, there are more hormones that we can count. Now, this is a picture of two identical twins. And they've got, you can see there's a difference between both of them. So one is taller than the other. And one has got a condition called acromegaly. Do you know what causes acromegaly? Thank you, Cindy, for putting the question up.
So the poll is live. So if everyone wants to take part, so like Kagabo said, these are identical twins, but they're slightly different. So what do you think causes this condition? How do you say the condition again?
Acromegaly.
Acromegaly. So maybe
you can use the height difference, so the difference between the twins, to see what's the difference.
There's quite the difference in their limbs, isn't it?
Yes.
Definitely still look like twins, though, with their facial features.
Of course, you will, but because some of the features will change because of, I won't give the clue for now.
Not yet. So we'll give that one more minute if anyone wants to put in their last final guesses. Yeah. So here is our results. So majority
yes, resounding majority. Yes, it's a excess of growth hormone. Yes. So as you all know, so this is acromegaly. It's a excess of growth hormone, and of course, that's one condition we did in the endocrinology. I mean, it's good. It's cool to be tall in modern society. You can go to NBA, you're playing sport. But if in natural, but sometimes like in this situation of these two twins, it means one has been exposed to excess amount of growth hormone and made him grow taller than the other. But of course, if it's not, it can happen as an excess. It won't be good because it can have a lot of complications, including the change in your face, because your extremities, your hands and nose and all that, and even your jaw. We see people where their jaw keep growing, and then they can't, when they are chewing, they can't close their mouth. So that's where we help them to treat them. Now, there's another condition called Cushing syndrome. Do you know what is the cause of Cushing syndrome?
So again, the poll's live. Although I've made a spelling error.
It's okay.
Apologies of that, but if anyone wants to guess. So if our previous condition was a result of excess growth hormone, what do you think this one is? What causes Cushing syndrome? Okay, then. So let's share these results. So majority of people think excess.
Yes. So yes, impressive. Yes. So Cushing is now excess cortisol, and also it can be a debilitating disease. So we also help with the diagnosis and treatment of Cushing. Now, the challenge is we're going to talk about what we do. I will try to, in a visual way, how we identify or detect that someone has got Cushing, and how then we go about it for the diagnosis. So the challenge is that all these hormones, we have them, and every one of us have them, but we normally have them in natural, I would say in a regulated way. Now, the challenge is to tell who is having an excess one, because otherwise, if you were to go around checking everyone, we have a bit of cortisol, we have cortisol, we have a growth hormone. But then, of course, first you have to see the history. The history, when in medicine, we still talk about history. So we talk to people, their history, examine them, and then when everything is pointing to that condition, we'll go around to try to confirm it and find where the cause is, so we can find a treatment or cure. Now, this is an image of how we detect an excess hormone. For example, in growth hormone or even Cushing, once we suspect that someone has got an excess hormone, in this situation, growth hormone or Cushing, with the research, we know the medication we can give to people or something, another substance we can give to the person. And we know that naturally, when everything's being normal, that substance will somehow dim or lower the level of the natural produced hormones. So that's the switch I put on. So you've got a broad daylight. So that's the hormone in the environment. But now you're suspecting that maybe there's another source of light that is not under my switch control. So you give a medication or a substance to act as a switch. So normally, if you have a light in your room and you switch off the light, you expect the light to dim. But if there is an excess, the light will not dim. So we give that excess, that substance, and if there's an excess hormone, still you have the light will still be present. So which means you give the substance, but the hormone will still be detected. So in the situation of growth hormone, we'll give people a glucose. When you normally take a glucose as orally, we take oral glucose. When they take glucose, normally the growth hormone should go down. If it does not go down, that means there's an excess hormone of growth hormone. In the case of Cushing, we have a synthetic steroid, which is similar to cortisol. But once you take it if you take it in the night, in the morning, if you do blood test, your natural cortisol will be low. So if we give you that tablet in the morning as a switch, and in the morning you still have light around the hormone, it means you've got an excess. So that is excess hormone after the dynamic test. We call it dynamic test. Otherwise, if everything was normal, I would expect to have a dimmed room like this. Does it make sense?
Is it essentially like having two light bulbs and taking one away?
Exactly.
You only need one. Oh, okay.
Exactly. Oh, yes. Or you've got one bulb light, but it's no longer connected to your switch. So you turn off the switch and the switch is no longer working.
But you still want a bit of light so that you still have that, so you can still see, kind of thing. Your body can still see this hormone.
And also the test we're doing, it's temporary. So if we give you that, the glucose, yes, as long as you've just taken excess glucose in your body, it would suppress your growth hormone. But tomorrow, if you're hungry, your growth hormone will go up again. So it means it's all temporary. So the switch is temporary, but it's one way of detecting that there's an excess hormone. And once we've identified that there's an excess hormone, then we do test to locate where the source is, so that we got some tests. It's mostly imaging to go and look for the second bulb, as you said, the light bulb. And once you've done that, either we can ask the surgeon to go and remove that second bulb, or we can use a medication to turn off that source of excess hormones. But that's in a nutshell what we do in the endocrinology. But that's one of the two conditions we do. There are some other conditions. I don't have time to go through them now. Now, someone mentioned insulin. Now, what do you know about diabetes?
So again, just a question into the chat box. What do you think you know about diabetes? So when you hear the word diabetes, what comes to mind? Too much sugar? Is that like too much intake, or that we're eating too much? Type 1 and type 2 diabetes. High more than normal. High more than normal. Blood sugar. Not enough insulin. High blood sugar levels and not enough insulin. Ooh. Got some interesting responses.
Yes, I mean it's there is a part of some of people they've got a good answer. So yes, it's when you've got, so we need sugar, or we need carbohydrates to function. It's our fuel, but of course we need insulin to help the carbohydrates to enter in our body to work. So diabetes is a metabolic condition. Maybe we can take off the panel, Cindy.
Pardon?
I can still see oh, sorry, it's my chart. I had to click the chart. Sorry. So yes, someone said it's type 1 there's a type 1 and type 2 diabetes mellitus. But in nutshell, it's a metabolic condition where there's a high blood sugar in the system. And then it could be either two conditions, it could be two situations. So it could be because you don't have an insulin as the key that normally unlock your body to take the glucose or the sugar and use it, or type 2, where you still have the insulin, but it can't work really well. So which means it is still your sugar, the sugar in your system, or the blood sugar is high. So one is lack of insulin, and the second one, type 2, it's the insulin is there, but it's not working effectively. And of course, there are some other rare forms of diabetes mellitus, which are called like monogenic diabetes. It's this where you've got a genetic condition where your body is still able to produce insulin, but because there's another lack of genetic mutation or change in your code, your body needs some stimulant to be able to produce it. But it's rare, so we don't normally focus on that. Now, the challenge is, especially type 2 diabetes mellitus, as you can see on this graph, it is gaining in importance. So as you can see, in 2000, worldwide, it was estimated there was 151 million people with diabetes. And now in 2021, that is only 20 years down the road, that number has increased to 537 million. So to put in a context, that is a 500 million, or if you can imagine a country like the United States of America, I think they have got 300 million. So they are almost double the population of the USA worldwide, people who live with type 2 diabetes mellitus. And if you can see now, when they start projecting, 20 years from now, we'll be approaching 1 billion of people living with type 2 diabetes mellitus. So that is a challenge. It's a big challenge. And of course, challenges need people to come and with solutions. And that's where we, as doctors dealing with diabetes, of course, with other people, technology and all, even policymakers, but we need people who will be able up to the task to deal with this challenge. So I hope some of you in the audience, maybe you join me to deal with this challenge. As you can see, having a 500 million now, people living with diabetes, it is really a big challenge. So, and if you, as you can see, the trend, it's things are not slowing down. Now, that is one thing we deal with diabetes. A second thing is now weight excess. Now, obesity, it is also now gaining, it's now becoming more, we are now becoming more aware that obesity is another challenge. And they go hand in hand, because most of the time, gaining excess weight make the insulin work less effectively. So most of the time, having excess weight make people have diabetes. But now, Cindy, people can put in the chart what other complications or challenges that people who have excess weight or obesity, they have to deal with.
Yeah, so again, just in the chat box, if you have any ideas on what you think the other complications or any complications or challenges may be caused by living with diabetes or obesity. So yeah, heart disease, how do we feel about that? Is that one of the complications and challenges? Kagabo?
Yeah, I mean, that's one, but I've already said it. So yes, heart disease, yeah. Yes.
Anyone have any other ideas on what other complications or challenges?
Yes, kidney problems, yes.
Anything else? Low self-esteem?
Yeah, that's correct. Yes. Yeah. Especially in the era of Instagram, where people, they are more aware of how they look, their looks. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else? So what would you say, Kagabo, is our...
Yeah, so now obesity, I mean, thank you for people. Yes. So I said that it could be diabetes, especially type 2, it's a complication. Yes, there's heart problem. There's a problem with the sleeping. People with excess weight, they suffer with snoring. There are people, and that's medical conditions. They can have an issue with the joint pain, back pain, because if you imagine if you're 70 kilogram and you gain weight and you go to 120, it means you're cutting 50 kilogram excess. So that means your joint, they have to carry that excess weight all the time. So the people, they suffer with the back pain, joint pain. And now that is from the medical point of view. But now imagine also from a financial and social issue. If you go in most flights, have you seen how the seats in planes, they're tight? So imagine, yes, Cindy, imagine then. So people with the obesity, they suffer because most designers, they don't take them into consideration, and which also contribute to that lower self-esteem. You're about to board and everyone is making themselves comfortable in their plane and in their seat, and you're struggling, and all that and challenging, and even accessibility, because if the people with the obesity, they are not, most of them, not all of them, but some of them, they could be struggling with physical exercise tolerance, so they can't walk. If the bus they're striking, it become an issue of commuting and all that. So, and now the challenge is also similar to type 2 diabetes mellitus, and also now obesity. As you can see, these are charts. You can see in the US in 1980s, 40% of the people were obese. Now in 2020, it's up to 70%. They estimate obesity and overweight. And even you can see UK or England is not way behind. In 1990s, less than 50% of the people were obese. Now it is now being estimated up to 70% now. Of course, this is a chart. Sometimes they may have numbers where people they may say, no, there's a bit of excess, but this is a headline. I just got it. It was like maybe last week from BBC, and they're saying reckon half of the world population in 2035 will be overweight. So imagine all those challenges we talk about: diabetes, joint pain, back pain, lack of self-esteem, kidney problem, heart problem, snoring, and even you can have even liver problem because the fat will accumulate on the fat. So all those are challenges, and we've got 50% of the people in 10 years from now, they'll be overweight. So we need people, doctors, healthcare professionals. Of course, that's why I'm telling you what we'll be dealing with that. In 2035, it means I'll be trying to help people struggling with the overweight. So I hope some of you on the call, you'll be with me helping to address this challenge that is facing us.
It's really making me, so I was going to have some more chocolate after this. I'm like, maybe that's a bad idea.
I don't, that's also what we normally talk about when you are helping people with the struggle with the weight. It's not that you have to go starving, it's just to talk about choices and all that, and to sometimes even the psychologists, they help how to go back and look at your relationship with food, because and of course, and we also have to, I hope there's no fast food, no representative from the fast food industry listening in, because somehow we are set against all the advert. So whenever you pass everywhere, there's an advert telling you to have a Big Mac so which means we have to really work hard to overcome all those things that incite us to treat ourselves, to have a treat. Now, those are the main things in my job, or I'll be doing also in the foreseeable future, helping people with the endocrinologic problem, acromegaly, Cushing, or other endocrine disease, and also our bulk will come from diabetes and weight, as you can see, because there's no slowing down. But also on top of that's what we call clinical work. But also on top of that, as a medical doctor, we also teach a medical student, or even now what I'm doing now, but also we teach other young aspiring doctors. And also we do leadership, management, and also we do research, because someone has discovered insulin, someone discovering some other hormones. So there is always research, and we do a lot of publications and all that thing. And also you can do consultants. Now, for example, there are a lot of tech startups. So people are bringing engineering solutions to try to solve some of these issues, like weight gain. Now people are designing some clever way of exercising when you're working on your desk, like standing desks, or having a stationary bike where you can use it when you're studying, so that you can burn your calories while you're working. And also we do advocacy, because like now we have some of doctors who go and talk to government or NGOs to try to raise awareness about different health conditions, and including obesity and diabetes. So there are many other jobs and roles we can do. It's not only about treating acromegaly. Like I was talking about publication and research, this is me last year in Edinburgh, where we were presenting our research on some of the side effects of endocrine side effect of cancer medication. And now, of course, I was born and studied in Rwanda, worked in Rwanda, in Middle East, and now I'm training in the UK. So along the way, I've learned a few things which I would like to pass on. So as I mentioned, the first thing is you have to be alive and healthy. I mentioned that in 1994, we had the genocide against Tutsi in Rwanda, and I lost a big part of my family. But of course, now I'm here talking so that I have to be alive to be able to go on my education. And I'm saying it because I've seen sometimes it's really sad when you see like sometimes young people dying in the UK because of a slight or some, I don't know, which is sad. So it's good to be.
Not very good reasons, basically.
Not very good reason. Yeah, so make sure you stay alive and don't get injured. Even if you get injured for not a good reason, and even if you don't die, you may spend a big chunk of your life in hospital where other people will be studying or exercising. And then the other thing is there is something called compounding effect. You don't have to wait on the last moment to do everything. Try to pace yourself. This was a lesson I got it from my mom when I was young. She told me of a young person who was employed and they thought he had lost, he was not intelligent. So there's, what is your pay? He said, I would like to be paid in peanuts. So, but on one condition. On the first day, you give me 1 peanut. On the second day, you double that, 2 peanuts. On the third, 4 peanuts. And they thought he was less intelligent. But end of the year, they were paying him in truckloads of peanuts, because every time you double, you're gaining. So which means it's a compounding effect. When you learn or whatever you do, even if it's sport, you exercising regularly, you gain and you build on that gain. And that's how you will, and then at the end of the day, you'll be prepared. So compounding effect. And you see this also in people, in even financial people. When you save regularly, you can save. So compounding effect, even knowledge will work. And remember, the other thing is there's no stupid question. That's what I was taught by one of my thesis when I was doing research in my final year in medical school. Because if you don't ask, no one is going to tell you. So he used to tell me there's no stupid question and it is stupid not to ask. So ask and seek mentors. It's good that you've joined such course, like this webinar, because that's where you find other people what they have done, and that can be inspiring. There was a saying we had in Latin, say, see it at east, cur non ego. So say, if those and these people have done it, why not me? So when you see mentors, what they've done, you can get inspired. And of course, when you've had a compounding effect, you've prepared yourself, and then that's when you start seeing opportunities, because opportunities will come to people who are prepared. When you're not prepared, you think it's luck, but when you're prepared, then the opportunity will show up themselves. So yes, stay alive, healthy, and do things slowly, compounding effect. Ask, seek mentors, and opportunities will show up themselves. We need people to come and treat diabetes, obesity, so which means there will be opportunities for people to work in this field, because with those projections, we need people to treat. And I think that is it. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. And if there's any question, you may direct to, yes, me. Unfortunately, it's me.
Fantastic. Thank you. And this is such an interesting gift you've got for the last little bit here. So we have 10 minutes or so for some more questions, if anyone has any. So if you stop sharing for now, Kagabo.
Yes, okay.
Fantastic. So if anyone has any questions, please put them in the chat box. Got a quick one. What do you think of the lovely weather we've been having compared to where you're originally from?
That's interesting, because when I was coming to UK, still I had a line, and imagine a line in the UK, so I was not planning to go further north because I thought I would try to stay closer to the equator as I can. But it was funny because the first time I moved to UK, we had what they say, the beast from the east. There was a time that, and even I was in Essex, and still it snowed, and the people they were saying that, oh, we've never seen this before. So yeah, I'm now getting used to that. Yes, someone has asked. Yes.
Yes. So we have a question. What are the biggest differences between the healthcare systems that you have experienced working in? Good question.
Yes, and I think that is that's the heart of even my journey so far, because in my country we have a bit of a mix of both. We have a public paying system where called Mituelle de Santé, where people they contribute a small amount and they have a health card, and then they can go to the health centers where they can get the treatment. So, standard care, things like malaria or kids who are vomiting, they get treated. They can get treatment. It becomes tricky when you need high specialized care because it can become expensive. Yes, people who are employed, they can have some healthcare insurance, but for the majority of the population, they have that mutuelle de santé, which is public, but which it cannot take you for all the way with things we are doing here. I know you can. We have a system of referral where people they can be referred, but the other challenge it's that we don't have. We still have a lot of challenges with the other low economic countries. Now, in the Middle East, it was fantastic in terms of infrastructure, but when I was there, it was private, and that is hurting. When as a doctor, you realize that someone needs a treatment, but you can't treat them because they can't afford that. And that's why I enjoyed working in NHS, because then everyone access to healthcare is a right. And then when I'm treating someone, I do my best. And when we're discussing the options, we don't have to think of. I don't have to look at you in them the eye. Say, do you think you have that, or you have to sell your house? Which is always could be. It's not a nice situation to be in when you have to discuss health. And
so we're quite lucky here, really.
Yeah, and people they still don't know about it when you're in the middle of that. Yeah,
I can imagine that has led to some really difficult conversations. So we've had another one about what do you find to be, and what is your favorite part of your job?
Oh yeah, so my it's a bit of, there are two things. One thing it's because my role as an economist, as I showed, it's more of it's like being Sherlock Holmes. So it's a bit of investigative. So if someone comes and they have got an issue they've been struggling with, like it's an example. During COVID, we had a young lady who came with COVID, and she was struggling to come off oxygen. She was young, normal people, young people, they weren't. And then they called us, another team, where they deal with the lung disease, to go and review her, because also her sugar was high. So when we saw her immediately, we thought, she looked like someone with Cushing. And then we did the investigation, we treated her, and she was cured. And then she told us that she used to go, because Cushing, also people they can gain weight. And she told us how she used to go to see people say, oh, you're eating more. So she was relieved. And also we feel happy that, yes, I've provided that answer to her what was causing her trouble. So helping people, and even if, yes, we don't always cure everyone, but at least trying to manage and help them, or even if we don't cure them, to help to understand what's going on. That is what is inspiring. And then also doing research to try to contribute to more knowledge in science. So yeah.
That's fantastic. So then our next question is, what made you want to pursue endocrinology?
Yes, that's thank you. So as I said, when I was studying back home, we had one old endocrinologist, and I never worked with him. So yes, there was no many endocrinologists in my country. But then when I moved to Middle East, when we talk about diabetes and the weight and obesity, that's where it is also on an epic proportion. Then that's when I realized how. So before, when you're in my country, being a doctor, we think of medicine in terms of infection. People, they come with the tuberculosis, HIV, malaria. You give them treatment and either they're cured or they can live with that. But now the next challenge is not about infectious diseases. Yes, they're still there. We have COVID, but it's the next challenge. It's what we call lifestyle disease. And it is coming everywhere, because when I was Middle East, I realized how even back home, there's what we call rural to urban migration. So people, when they leave from rural area to town, they will gain weight, and then you start having all these diabetes. Diabetes start increasing. So I realized then, if I don't do this training and try to help wherever I am, who's going to provide that? Because we talked about heart problem, but most of the heart problem or even liver problem, it's because people, they have gained weight. So if I can help to treat endocrinology and weight and obesity, I may somehow prevent some of the complications we see now.
So it helps. It has quite a domino effect.
Yes.
Some good questions here. Nice.
Yes.
Here we've got another one. How hard was medical studies? And if you did again, would you do anything different?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, it's. I would say, as I said, that's why I said my lesson learned of compounding effect. In medicine, we learn a lot of information. So the only way to go about it is to go every day. I mean, try to pace yourself so that every day you're learning something. Then by the time you're about to finish, you realize you've learned a lot. But if you put aside and you say, "I will prepare when I have an exam," then you realize how there's a lot of material to cover. So because I used to, I tried hard to practice the compounding effect. It was not that hard, and given the interaction and the journey I've had, I would do it again if I was given the opportunity. Now, someone has asked the most notable medical advancement in my field. I mean, recently, now, last week I was attending a conference in Berlin on technology in diabetes, especially that is type 1 or type 2. So now, and also we were celebrating 100 years of insulin discovery. So before 1922-23, people with type 1 diabetes, they used to die because there was no cure. And then Canada discovered the insulin. And initially they used to get it from cows and pigs. And then someone discovered you can use bacteria to generate a human insulin, which we call analog or bio. Now, but still people, they had to inject. I remember when I was growing up, I used to see people drawing insulin from a vial and inject themselves. Now we are coming with the insulin pumps, and on top of that, because of the computing power, now the pumps and there's a sensor. You don't have to. Okay, you have to prick to get your blood to measure your blood sugar. But now we are now at the cusp where you can have a machine that can talk to a sensor and give insulin with the minimum input from the person living with diabetes. And that is life-changing, because normal people with type 1 diabetes especially, they have to keep thinking what I'm eating, what insulin I have to take, what have I done, because all that can affect their insulin and sugar levels. Now that's what is on the horizon. In weight, of course, that's it. And I'm in Southwest, where we do a lot of, have colleagues working in genetic diabetes. And then in endocrinology, we have also some research on MRI and new medication we can use to treat some of the endocrinology conditions.
Fantastic. Those are some amazing changes, especially, 100 years, it kind of sounds like a lot, but there are still people who were around then when
even now
was made.
Even now we give people, there's a charity called Diabetes UK. When we see people who have lived with diabetes for 50 years, because we know how challenging it is, 50 or 70, we nominate them and they can get an award for the fact that they have lived with diabetes for 50 years, 70 years. If you can see how challenging it was before, they could not even, they used to pee and check the sugar in the wee, because there was no technology to check but the problem, it's not as accurate. So we used to pee and check your sugar in the wee, and then they moved to check on the finger. And now we have a sensor you put in for 14 days, And you just you swipe with your phone and it can tell you what is your sugar.
Amazing technology and changes. It must change so many
Yeah,
people's
so
lives.
and on the audience, you don't have to do diabetes. You can do technology and you help us to treat better people in the future. Yeah.
Fantastic. Those are some amazing questions and some great answers as well. Thank you so much. So thank you everyone for joining us again this evening. Thank you, Kagabo, for your lovely presentation as well and telling us quite a bit about this subject, which is always good to know.
Thank you, and sorry for the technology hitch.
No. Technology we're all starting to work with. So technical specialists.
Yes.
And just as a bit of a reminder, our next session is on the 11th of May. That's the last one for this academic year. And that is with Lucas on the 11th of May. So do your sign now. Lovely. And now I hope everyone enjoys the rest of the evening. So good night.
Thank you, Cindy. Have a lovely evening, everyone.
Thank you, Kagabo.
Bye.